My name is Vanessa Mitchell, and I never imagined I'd find myself in a situation where I questioned everything I believed about loyalty, self-control, and love. For over 20 years, I was the picture-perfect wife and mother, devoted to my family and to the quiet, stable life we had built in the suburbs of Portland. But sometimes, even the strongest foundations develop cracks when you least expect them. And sometimes, temptation doesn't knock politely. It kicks the door wide open. My husband, David, is a successful business consultant. We met in college, fell in love, got married, and raised two wonderful children, Emma, now 17, and Jacob, 14. Life with David was predictable, steady, and secure. He was always responsible, always practical. But that also meant he was often away, on business trips, work calls, and overseas contracts that lasted for weeks. I understood his dedication, and I admired his ambition, but I can't lie, over time, I began to feel like a fixture in his schedule, rather than his partner. David's most recent trip was to Germany. 3 weeks. 3 weeks of dinners alone, empty house echoes, and quiet mornings where the only sound was the ticking of the kitchen clock. The kids were at summer camp, off enjoying their freedom, leaving me with nothing but time. I didn't think it would be any different from all the other times David traveled, but this one turned out to be the one that changed everything. It started with a message. An innocent ping from Facebook Messenger that appeared while I was half watching a rerun on TV. The name lit up like a forgotten spark in my mind. Ryan Carter. Ryan had been my best friend in college.
More than a friend, really.
We shared laughs, secrets, inside jokes, and one unforgettable night during senior year that neither of us ever mentioned again. After college, we drifted apart. I met David. He moved to New York. Life happened. I hadn't seen or heard from him in nearly 20 years. His message was simple. Hey, Vanessa.
I was just thinking about you.
Are you still in Portland? My heart fluttered. Not in a romantic way, at least not right away, but in that nostalgic, breath-catching way that comes from hearing a name you'd long buried in the archives of your memory. I replied after a few minutes. Hey, Ryan. Wow, it's been forever. Yeah, I'm still here. Are you back in town?
He was.
For work, just a short project. But he had a few days off and thought it would be nice to catch up. I didn't think there was any harm in meeting up. Old friends have coffee all the time, right? We chose a quiet cafe near downtown. I wore a simple blue blouse and jeans, but I took a little longer with my hair than usual. I don't know why I told myself it was just to look presentable, but deep down, I think I already knew I was stepping into something more complicated than I wanted to admit. When I saw him, it was like time had folded in on itself. He looked older, of course. His jaw was more defined. A few lines had etched themselves around his eyes, but he still had that same relaxed confidence, that same warmth in his smile. Vanessa Mitchell, he said, pulling me into a hug. Still just as beautiful. We talked for over an hour. Laughed about college days, swapped stories about our kids. He was divorced now with a teenage son, and somewhere in the middle of it, I found myself completely drawn in. Not just to him, but to the way he made me feel.
Seen. Heard.
Special. He walked me to my car after coffee, and for a moment, we stood there in a strange silence. It wasn't awkward, just charged. I looked into his eyes and felt something stir. I said goodbye quickly and drove home, trying to shake the feeling that lingered. But it didn't go away. The next day, he texted. Still thinking about that coffee. Would love to do lunch. I hesitated. I should have said no. I should have thought about my husband, my marriage, the life I had. But I didn't. I replied, lunch sounds good. He came over the following Saturday. The kids were still at camp, and David was 2 continents away. I told myself I was being a good host, just catching up with an old friend. I made grilled chicken salad, and we sat out on the patio under the warm July sun. Conversation flowed easily. There was wine, laughter, memories that made us both nostalgic and a little emotional. At some point, I caught myself staring at his hands, then at his lips, then quickly looking away. He noticed. Of course he did. You always used to do that, he said softly. Do what? I asked, pretending not to know. Look at me like that when you were trying not to. I smiled, embarrassed. That was a long time ago. Some things don't change, he said, his voice low. The moment stretched thin between us. I could feel the tension. I could also feel the warning signs in my head, the red flags, the reminders of my wedding vows. But the truth is, I didn't want to resist it anymore. I stood up, gathering the plates, trying to break the moment. But when I turned, he was right there. He touched my arm, gentle, respectful, but firm. Vanessa, I don't want to make you uncomfortable,
But I've thought about you.
a lot. And being here, it just feels right. I stared at him, my heart pounding. Every part of me screamed to stop, to pull back, to run. But I didn't. Instead, I leaned in. What happened next wasn't planned. It wasn't logical. It was messy, emotional, overwhelming. It was the kind of moment that changes everything, not because of the act itself, but because of what it reveals. That deep, hidden part of you that you've tried so hard to bury. That longing to feel wanted, alive, desired. Afterward, I sat on the edge of my bed, my hand shaking. Ryan sat beside me in silence, his presence comforting and terrifying all at once. I should go, he said gently. I nodded, unable to speak. I'm sorry, Vanessa. I didn't mean to complicate your life. But it was already complicated. More than he knew. For the next few days, I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I kept waiting for the guilt to crush me completely, but instead, it came in slow, crushing waves. And the worst part? A part of me didn't regret it. David returned from his trip and immediately sensed that something was off. I avoided eye contact. I gave short answers. He assumed I was just tired, maybe overwhelmed from holding down the house alone. He brought me perfume from Paris, kissed my forehead,
Told me he missed me.
and I smiled. I thanked him. I played the part. But inside, I was at war with myself. I didn't see Ryan again. We exchanged a few messages, but I told him it had to end. He respected that. And then he left town.
Just like that.
Weeks passed, then months. Life slowly returned to normal, but I never quite felt the same. I threw myself into family life, tried to be the perfect wife again, the attentive mother, the supportive friend. But sometimes, when the house was quiet, I would sit on the patio and remember that afternoon. The warmth of the sun, the laughter, the kiss that changed everything. I never told David. I carry that secret alone. I don't know if that makes me a coward or just human. But I do know this. Desire is a powerful force. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't care about consequences. And sometimes, no matter how strong you think you are, it finds a way in. What I did that day wasn't right. It wasn't justified. But it was real. And it reminded me that beneath the surface of every perfect life is a person still searching for something. I'm still trying to figure out what that something is.